The wealthmanagement.com Advisor Innovations podcast is sponsored by LPL. As financial advice continues to evolve, LPL is at the forefront. Whether it's growing your RIA or building an independent practice, advisors can pick the business model, services, technology, and product mix that best meets their clients' needs. As a top wealth management firm, 100% dedicated to advisor success, LPL looks forward to learning how they can help you build your tomorrow today. For information and show notes, go visit lpl.com/advisor innovation.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. This is the Advisor Innovations Podcast. I'm David Armstrong. As you know, this is the podcast that just gives me a chance to talk to people in the industry who are moving the wealth management into interesting areas, interesting directions, moving the business forward. And I'm here with Robert Sofia. Robert, thanks very much for joining us.
Hello, David. I am happy to be here. And in person, which is great.
In person, which is great. This is actually the first time I've done this podcast in person, face-to-face with someone. So this is a new experience for me.
I hope I don't ruin it for you.
You're not going to ruin it. This is the Wealth Management Edge Conference. First time we're doing this podcast at a conference. So all sorts of firsts here. I appreciate it. Thanks very much for doing it for us.
I'm grateful for the opportunity.
I think most people will know you as the founder of Snappy Kraken, the
Probably.
uniquely named digital marketing company for financial advisors specifically. You want to just take a quick moment, though, for those who don't, and tell us what Snappy Kraken is and what problem you're solving for advisors.
Yes. Snappy Kraken is a growth program, simply put. It is automated, but we try to automate it in a really human way. So we use text messaging, email, even advertising, and all different types of content to help advisors engage with their clients and with prospects and grow their audience at the same time.
It's interesting to me because when I started looking at this industry, studying it some 10 years ago, referrals, and advisors spent absolutely no attention, paid no attention, spent nothing on marketing, with the exception of the occasional radio show, perhaps, local radio show, or a retirement seminar somewhere.
Yeah.
But for the most part, advisors spent nothing on marketing.
That was the business I came into 20 years ago almost. The same way. It's definitely evolved.
Yeah. And referrals, I think, still are the way that most advisors get their clients. What do you add to this to, bolster that kind of, development growth, business growth program for advisors? It's clearly referrals still work, but they can't work alone anymore in the environment that we're in, right? If I'm an advisor and someone refers a friend to me, the first thing that friend's going to do is check me out online, right? So there's just the pure cold referral doesn't seem to hold it anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the answer is it depends. We work with 6,000 advisors, so I see everything. And I still see advisors growing a business by referrals, albeit usually they're not fast growing. Some have really good systems for generating referrals consistently, and that's good for them. But most advisors are not able to grow a business, especially. Maybe sustain one, maybe a lifestyle business. But if they really want to grow it, referrals usually aren't enough. And so what we try to do is demystify the whole digital marketing thing too. It's not just data and technology and social media. It's about how you forge deeper relationships with people at scale in a repeatable way. Just like real life. You have to meet people. You have to build likability and trust with those people you meet. And then you have to transition from that to conversations about finances and wealth management and estate planning and other things. And how you do all of that in an offline world, you meet, you shake hands, you have a conversation. Well, how do you take that same process people have to go through, whether it's online or offline, and you apply it and support it with technology and content? And that's really what it comes down to, is just helping advisors build relationships at scale. If they need a big audience and they want to grow fast, you got to advertise. You got to be out there more. If you want to grow slower, you need a smaller audience. Maybe you can work your existing network. But how that's done just depends on the advisor and their goals.
And when you waded into this with Snappy Kraken, and how long has it been? When did you found Snappy Kraken?
Yeah, we founded it in June 2016, but we didn't launch the retail current version of our platform until early 2018, April, actually. So it's actually been a little less time, I guess 3.5 years or so, since we've really been driving hard on the retail platform.
Well, in 3.5 years, though, there's been some significant growth. Snappy Kraken has really grown quickly. How many employees do you have now?
115.
115 employees. Amazing. In 3 years. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think it maybe speaks to the need that you're addressing, right? When you first started this and came in, I was thinking even advisors didn't even really have any kind of social media presence, didn't have any kind of online presence except for maybe a generic website that they posted because they had to. Do they know how to work their LinkedIn networks? I mean, I think most of them just didn't have to do that. Partially because, I mean, the markets were going up. So
That's
you
true.
don't really have to, hides a lot of sins, right?
Indeed it
You can
does.
have growth without doing much at all. We're kind of seeing that change a little bit. But, you must have just seen a lot of blank slates when you got into this thing, going into an advisor's office and saying, oh, show me what you do.
Yeah.
You must have just seen like green field out there to, cultivate. Yeah?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we still do. And I don't know what's worse, a blank slate or something done really, really badly. And there's a lot of that too, unfortunately, because in the early 2000s, when social media was rising and people were realizing that the website was really important, and hey, emailing people consistently is really important. And these were actually very new concepts to a lot of advisors back in 2004, 2005. There were companies popping up and churning out really generic, bland websites and really bad social media content. And a lot of advisors were, I don't want to say they were duped. Everybody had good intentions, but it's like swipe your credit card and all your marketing problems will be solved,
Right.
was kind of the mindset. And that was a shortcut, it seemed, to solving it. And so what we actually see is a lot of advisors still, they're on old legacy platforms with really bland, boring, cookie cutter websites and just auto posting and auto emailing whatever random things the system decides that might not be relevant to their clients and might not be relevant to their practice. I think I'd rather see more blank slates, but that's really what we see even more of now, because advisors kind of transitioned over the last 10, 15 years from blank slates to a lot of whatever they happen to be forced on by their broker dealer or swipe their credit
Or
card
whatever
for.
they used, whatever they picked up because they thought it was a good idea at the time.
Right.
Yeah, and you see this, right? When you're sending all of your prospects the same newsletters, the same content, or worse, right? We sometimes see advisors in the same broker-dealer or the same advisory network all posting the same stuff on their social media as if this was something unique to them, but you see it all over, the same content all over the place.
Yeah.
We see this happen all the time. So I understand a great need that you're feeling, but the way that you want to help advisors relate to their clients individually at scale, how do you help advisors at scale with this, right? I mean, if each advisor needs kind of their own unique marketing program, how can you do that across however many advisors you serve now?
Yeah, it's a good question, because when you were saying that about all posting the same thing or all emailing the same thing, I really think it's important to create a little carve out there to acknowledge that we actually do provide a lot of that type of thing for advisors, but it's the way that we do it and the context in which we do it that makes it effective. So I'll give you some examples. Historically, you get all your email addresses from clients and prospects. You put them on a list, and you email them all the newsletter every week, right? That's a historical example of how advisors might market. Or they get on a platform and it just auto-posts social media every week to all the advisors, right? There's no personalization. There's no context. There are places in an advisor's business where it is vitally important that everything be 100% unique to them. Their logo, their website, the videos on their website, the pictures on their website, everything about their online presence should be very unique to their brand. That is something they own. It is private real estate. But if you think about that in context, by the time somebody's there, they're researching you. So it matters there. But now let's flip the script to a different context. Let's say that somebody is an absolutely cold prospect just browsing the internet. They don't know you yet. They're not interested in you. How are they going to actually become engaged with that initial conversation? Well, now we can go a little shallower, actually, because they don't care about you yet. They don't care about your brand yet. They care about whatever they want an answer to. They have a question on their mind. They have something they're researching. So when you are doing cold social media outreach or you're doing advertising, well, it doesn't need to be about you and your brand. It needs to be about the prospect. It needs to be about the audience you're targeting and what their center of interest and focus is. But see, then now we back up. They've now consumed that content. Let's say they want the answer to how technology entrepreneurs like themselves are able to do A, B, and C to secure their retirement. Well, now the question becomes, okay, who's behind this? Then they learn about you. Now we'll flip the script the other way. Let's say somebody's a client. You have a deep relationship with them. You've been serving them for years. They don't need to see your value prop anymore. Who cares about your value prop? Now there's a relationship. So the communication changes again. Now it can be a personal email. It can be a text message. Hey, Dave, just checking on you. Want to see how you're doing. Been thinking about you and your family. Let me know if there's anything you need. Or, hey, Dave, there's been a pretty rough market these last few weeks. I know you trust us to monitor everything for you. But if you're worried about anything, I just want you to know I'm here. Now, you can't do that with a cold prospect who's never met you, but you can with a client. So what you have to do is you have to keep the core of your brand unique. And then you have to figure out, based on the rest of the audience, what's right for them at that time. And you can use a proven framework. It doesn't have to be created from scratch every single time. It just has to be right for that audience. And that's what we really try to focus on is what audience is this for? What stage of the relationship are they at? And then the third thing we do, which is really unique, and I'm not trying to plug Snappy Kraken, I think any advisor should be doing this, is we sort of force them to personalize things. Like we don't ever just send stuff out for them. And I think that's really dangerous because what if a client calls you and is like, hey, I got this thing from you, what is this about? And you're like, oh, I don't know, my website just sent that to you.
Right, yeah.
Like, okay, relationship trust goes down. So we actually have them open it up. It's a framework. Here it is, it's proven. But right here, insert at the beginning of this something about you personally, something about what you did over the weekend, something about your family. Drop a photo here. Or here's an outline for a video. Record this video and drop it here. And what you're doing is you're taking a tested, proven framework, but you're inserting yourself to add authenticity. And that does two things. Saves the advisor a ton of time and effort, but it also performs. And that's the sweet spot we're playing in.
It's almost like you're kind of greasing the wheels for advisors to get authentic messages out there, right? I mean,
that's right.
They're doing the templates that work and the distributions systems that work, but allowing them to customize these with their own little inserts of whether it's video or something else, right? Because I mean, a lot of advisors are terrible at video, right? Maybe there's something else that they have to do, but authenticity is very important. I know you've spoken to this many times, that the authenticity for the advisor is very important. Are there things that you do to help those advisors kind of find their authentic voice? Because I mean, we can talk about authenticity, but I think a lot of advisors maybe just don't. It's like, yeah, I mean, I can be an authentic person, but I don't know how to express it in the forms that would work in these programs.
Yeah, that's the harder part. It really is. And I don't even think that we do as good a job at that as I want to in the future. We have coaching that we provide. We have weekly training sessions, and we even have some partnerships with other firms that do coaching. Like, for example, FICOM. They have a video coaching program, and we refer our advisors to it. They help them with lighting and audio and training, and if they need help in that area, they can help them. But one of the things we really try most of all to do is just help advisors to understand that they are being authentic if they're being themselves, and people already like them and chose them because of who they are, and people will continue to do so. So don't try to put on anything. Just show up, pretend it's a client across the desk from you, and just answer their questions. Say, hi, my name is, and I'm here to talk to you about question, and then answer it just like you're answering it for Betty and June, who come in every single week and get that advice from you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and you've talked before about the natural selection process of the right client, right? And if you're not doing that authentic outreach, perhaps you're getting the clients that aren't right for you, right? I mean, if you're kind of like trying to put on a show, put on an act, or build something that's not real, the clients that are attracted to you won't be the right clients.
That's right.
Yeah. Let me see this. We can go more into the business and this, but I'm really kind of interested in how did you stumble upon this? I mean, can you give me a little bit of your background? I mean, where did you grow up? Were you an advisor before getting into marketing? And how did you stumble into advisory? What was the? Yeah,
I really started my career in retail sales is where it started. My first job, I was like 16 or 17. I didn't want to work in fast food. I wanted to work. I went out to the mall and I applied at like jewelry stores. And I started selling jewelry.
And where are we? Is this?
This is in Tennessee, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And I realized I could sell. And I started like pursuing sales jobs, all through school. And I sold so much stuff, Dave. I sold knives and RVs and there's all kinds of things. But at some point,
RVs.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I sold. Let's see, what did I sell? I could go on. Knives, RVs. Why are those the only two things coming to mind right now? Oh, so many things. Cars. Anyway, there's a bunch of other stuff. But
was this just I mean,
like this is like from like 17 to like 21.
Okay.
Like trying to figure out my thing.
Okay.
And then I lost a job while I was on my honeymoon, actually. I came back. My boss didn't like that. That was the RV job. Didn't like that I was gone for a week. And I was looking for jobs. And Ford Motor Company was trying to start a program. And the dealership in my town was one of the number one dealerships in the nation. So they were trying to install a new program for marketing to current Ford owners to get them to come back and buy more cars. Mm-hmm. So that's when my career in marketing started. And I was employee number one for that program. I built it up over 3 years. It transformed that store, and Ford installed it in dealers all over the world. I got to help dealers in Chile and even other countries to build this program to build loyalty for the Ford brand. And it's still in dealerships everywhere. All the car brands have it now. It's called a BDC, Business Development Center.
Incredible. And how old are you at this time?
I was, 24 or 25 at the time when I finally left that. So 22, it was about 3 or 4 years, 22 to 25, something like that.
Amazing. And the program that you built was to encourage current Ford owners to come back to that same store and upgrade their car.
So we did email and phone calls. It was like email, phone calls, and websites for dealers, and it was very successful. But because I started at entry level and I had bigger aspirations and I was young, I didn't feel like I was climbing my career like I wanted to. Mm-hmm. And a buddy of mine came to me and he said, the wealth management industry is like 20 years behind, and you could do so much here. And I got recruited by an RIA, a really nice firm. Got me securities license, brought me in.
Are we still in Tennessee?
No, I'm sorry. I'd moved down to Florida at this time. Okay. So got me securities license. I fell in love with the industry. I was like, this is absolutely underserved with marketing. This is a great business that we're helping people in amazing ways. I can buy into marketing this. And we grew that firm from about 120 million in AUM to about 750 million in AUM in less than 5 years.
Incredible.
And they
brought you in as a marketer.
Yep.
I mean, that was your role there.
Yep.
I mean, they got you licensed and you were, but
VP of marketing.
But the role was you're going to market this firm.
Yep.
And how did you do? What was your first step there?
Oh, I mean, that's where I go way back. It's funny because in the last session they were talking about data, how to use data to improve your business. Yeah. And one of the panelists said, I'm sure a lot of these advisors are really overwhelmed by how to use all this data, and they don't know how to maximize their CRM.
Right.
I told them about the index card box with a card for every month of the year, and whenever a client would come in and you learn that they have a birthday or a child's birthday or an anniversary or the date of somebody's death, you just put the card in for that month, and every month you pull the stack out and put it on your desk and call 3 a day until the stack is gone.
Amazing.
So this is like the kind of stuff what we did is we looked at the business and said, how can we create a really amazing client experience, and how can we amplify it? We did client events, we did mailers, we did email marketing, and that whole experience got me. It was about from, I guess, originally 2004, and dates are escaping me exactly, but 2004 to about 2009.
Okay.
That 5-year period was really formative in my career, and once I realized that this model could work for so many other advisors, then I started the first consulting business I had. It was called Platinum Advisor Strategies.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And we just did this manually for everybody. And then I exited that business in 2016 to do it with technology. And that's Snappy Kraken.
That's
the whole background. People are probably tuning off right now because they're like, I don't know this much about this guy.
No, it's amazing.
It's
amazing. But where did you get the natural sales ability? Where does that come from? I mean, you were selling knives and RVs at 16, 17, 18.
I've got to give credit to my grandfather.
Okay.
We had a family business when I was a kid, building swimming pools.
Okay.
And from the time I was about 7 or 8, my grandmother would pick me up from school, take me to the family business, and it was a good, like, for a pool company, it was good. They were doing about $1 million a year back in the 80s, and I would sit with him when he would have meetings with people that would come in, and I remember him teaching me, like, one of the things I'll never forget from him, like, he would demonstrate for me. He'd say, now son, once they are quiet, hand them the pen. He says, hand them the pen. Don't ask them to sign, just hand them the pen and slide the contract over, and that's what he would do. And I watched him. I was watching him close, from the time I was like 8 till 14 or something like that.
That's fantastic. And it's probably a decision to put in a pool at that time was probably similar to a decision to go with an advisor, right? I mean, it's a big decision. It's a big decision to sign over. That's going to be not a small thing.
It's going to be construction.
When you got to that first RIA and you were building that marketing program, you must have bumped into a lot of walls, a lot of things that didn't work.
Oh yeah, big time.
What were some things that you found that you thought held promise but didn't?
Yeah. That's part of the process of marketing, period. It's a really good lesson. Like, a lot of things don't work, and you have to keep trying. And for me, most of the time it was that technology wasn't where it needed to be yet. Mm-hmm. Systems weren't talking to each other. Even just an example, like, I really went all in on email marketing, for several years. building an email list, and I was able to buy emails and put them into a database and just email people cold and get a lot of responses. But then all of a sudden, anti-spam laws and then systems started shutting us down and blacklisting our accounts, and what was working didn't work anymore. You gotta have a new approach, And then we do mailers, we do seminars. We were in a good retirement community, and then more advisors started coming into this community, and everybody's doing seminars. The joke was you could eat free every day of the week in town. So now your seminars aren't as competitive. It's harder to get people there. So then how do you run a better event to get people there? And then that merged into client events. And then we tried different types of client events, bowling events and ladies shopping days and wine tasting, everything else, and you keep at it. And that's kind of scrappy fortitude to just keep on marketing and keep trying new things. It's led to growth, for me, for the businesses that I've supported, and it's just part of our DNA. And I can tell you right now, like social media used to fuel a lot of growth, and now it's much harder. And that's always going to be that way. And what's the next thing? And that's where we're always kind of looking like, how do we keep doing the table stakes well? Great branding never changes. It's always going to be here, right? But then how do we also move things forward so that when the next thing that's going to help advisors grow is here, our industry isn't 20 years behind anymore. We're already adopting it just like other industries are. And that's sort of what drives me in this business, because you could say, like, why is it that all these other businesses can use testimonials and advisors can't? Well, that was a regulation issue, right? But okay, finally RIAs can. But then there are lots of other things too, other technologies, AI and predictive analytics and big data integrations. And there's so much potential there. And that's where we're really looking right now on our roadmap, because how can we help advisors use that like some of the biggest businesses in the world do? And that's where I think there's still so much potential in this industry.
Yeah. A lot of maybe recognition of I think machine learning, artificial intelligence. It seems to me that the applications there are going to be more in the marketing of an advisory firm, maybe even more so than in the investment management of an advisory firm, right? Because that's where the real meshing of the data comes together.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah, please.
Like just imagine this. It's very simple. Somebody opts in to a piece of marketing, and because you want a higher opt-in rate, you only require them to give a first name and an email address. By the way, this is true today. That's how we do it. Now we take that email address and we put it into data enrichment software, and then we find out where they live on the other side of town from the advisor. And now the communication that goes out, the system recognizes where they are and responds to that. I see you're over in the Columbia Heights side of town. Our office is in Newport. By the way, nice to meet you. Thank you for asking for more information on our firm. That small thing. Or what if you learn that somebody has children that are of a certain age, and then they opt in? You didn't know. They were just getting a piece of information. You had no idea, but now you learn they've got kids that are about to go to college. Thank you for requesting this information. I don't know if you've already planned for your children's education or not, how that's going to impact you financially. But by the way, here's a resource I have that might help you. Now, that is very, very simple AI, because all it's doing is taking the data, looking at it, and then using some variable inputs that have already been created to make the message real, personalized at scale. And that's the kind of stuff, man. Once we really get that going, we're working on it. But once we really do, I think it's just going to change the game.
Interesting. A lot of advisory firms are still basically small businesses, medium-sized businesses. They're not doing national campaigns, right? They're not doing, with some exception, not doing television campaigns, television advertising. Is that going to change too, right? I mean, we have seen some advisory firms, some national RIAs, put television commercials on the Super Bowl. Are we going to see more of that? And if so, does that change the way that advisors need to think about marketing and advertising if they start to market themselves more as a consumer company, a consumer large?
Yeah. It will change things. And the reason you see some of the bigger firms doing that is because they have bigger resources.
Sure, yeah.
We really don't focus there, to be honest, Dave. It's not my zone of genius, because we really focus on advisors who want to build a presence regionally. And there's a term, it's not mine, it's from a book I read years ago, but it's called 5 Mile Famous. And the premise is there's enough people within 5 miles of you, if you're in a metropolitan area, to completely support your business. So what we try to do is figure out what the market is, and that could also be a niche. It could be people all over the country, but they're a focused niche. And then how do you dominate that market? And for most advisors, there's plenty of business for that. Now, if you're trying to build a national brand, the whole game changes. You have to spend a lot more, do a lot more, have a bigger team, and that's not really what we're about. But I think any advisor can really become 5 Mile famous. And that's what we're trying to help them do, or at least famous in their niche with their audience.
That's great. You mentioned a book, 5 Mile Famous. I did want to ask you any other books that you recommend for advisors, maybe that can help them think about marketing, or just not even think about marketing, think about life in general. Any books that you spring to mind that you recommend?
Yeah, there are so many. I mean, Thinking Fast and Slow. Let's see.
The Kahneman.
The Blend Out, which I wrote, shameless plug, but it's all about marketing for advisors.
Blend Out, yeah.
I've got all these books that I'm reading right now, and you ask me that question, they just completely go out of my head. I'm reading one about critical thinking and asking the right questions, and it would be amazing for advisors. And I'll have to give you the name of it, and you can put it in the show notes.
Okay,
but
cool.
it's really about asking deeper questions and helping people to come to realizations.
Yeah.
And there are so many, but
that's good. That's great. Well, listen, I would be remiss also if I didn't congratulate you on the Jolt conference that you recently held.
No,
First
thank you.
conference for advisor marketing, dedicated to advisor marketing. Fantastic turnout there.
Yeah,
great.
We're excited about it.
And acquisition of advisor websites, which adds a whole new dimension to your business.
It does, yeah.
And do you want to just talk briefly a little bit about that? What did you see with advisor websites? It basically doubled the size of your company.
It did, yeah.
And gives you many more tools to use.
Yeah.
How are you absorbing that? It's been, what now? A couple months since you've
1 month.
1 month.
1 month, almost.
So
exactly,
where are you on the roadmap to kind of bring them in and integrating, and what can we expect to see?
Yeah. Well, first of all, to answer your question about where we are, we devoted the first month to learning. And that's what we told everybody. We're not going to integrate these companies immediately. We're going to learn. And now everybody's doing SWOT analysis inside of each department, and we're working on the longer term integration plan. But that doesn't matter. That's inside baseball. Here's what really matters, and I think I want advisors to know and the industry to know. A lot of the things I said today to you about the advisor's brand, I didn't have control over that before. I couldn't affect that because we were doing digital marketing, but we weren't doing their websites. We weren't doing their branding. We weren't producing video for them. We weren't doing all that stuff. And now we can. And that's what I'm excited about, because I see so much opportunity for advisors to create a presence that's really compelling and attractive, differentiated. There's so much replication of ideas, because advisors end up just kind of copying other advisors who are successful, and we really want to change that. Even websites, there are so many things that you can do with them to make the opt-ins higher, to make there's a whole mentality about websites that's really a throwback, that you want to create all this content on your website so people stay there longer and read and read and read. But in reality, what you want is you want them to go there, see a message that resonates with them, build enough trust to submit an inquiry. Yeah. That's the real goal of a website. So how can you do that faster? And then what if they really don't want to submit their email? Is there an option for them to just text you right from your website to make it fast? These are the kind of innovations that we already have the ability to do with websites. And so between the creative work that we want to apply there, and then the technology we want to apply there, our goal is to just make a website more than just a static brochure, but make it a real authority building platform, a real sales enabler. And that's what I'm excited about. And that's what you're going to see from us as we start to roll out new innovations.
Well, we look forward to it. Look forward to watching the journey. Thanks very much,
Thank you,
Robert
Dave.
Sofia. Thanks very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And this has been the Advisor Innovations webcast. Thanks for listening.
This podcast is sponsored by LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor and member of FINRA SIPC. LPL Financial is a separate entity from and not affiliated with wealthmanagement.com.